Hi, so my name's Andy Hearns. I live here in Massachusetts. You can probably tell from my accent I'm not from here originally. I've lived in the US for about 10 years. And last year we decided to get into some chicken keeping. Well, it was one of those classic situations where I saw some chicks. I was with my youngest daughter, said, "What do you think? Should we get some chicks?" My wife was absolutely not, don't go there. But I liked the idea, so eventually we ordered some chicks, and we got 6 birds last year, 3 Buff Orpingtons and 3 silver-laced Wyandottes. And although I'd read quite a lot on the subject, I think we learnt a lot of lessons in that first winter. All the classics really. The coop we bought, yeah, it was big enough for 6 birds, but it wasn't really big enough. And we also learned that predator proofing and keeping the animals away from the chicks and the chickens is a different story in the summer to the winter. So we thought we were all set over the summer. We had a fence around the coop. We dug down about 18 inches to 2 feet with 1/4 inch welded wire and had about a 4-foot fence all the way around. We also bought the little night guard LED flashing lights, which worked pretty well. So I mean, for the most part, both the last summer and the winter, there was no evidence of digging or any predators. I had some motion sensing outdoor cameras with infrared. Never really saw anything. A few deer at the back of the wood. We've got about an acre here behind me, but other than that, not much. Different story in the winter. The birds kept themselves to themselves. It wasn't a particularly snowy winter, but you know, they say you don't really understand farming of any description or keeping animals until you've lived through a winter. And although it wasn't the worst New England winter, it was pretty tough trudging out there and cleaning the poop out and digging snow. And obviously the birds didn't really want to come out in the deep snow. And we did have some pretty brutal cold. So while a lot of people will tell you don't heat chickens, you know, we did do some light heating just to keep things, you know, in the teens rather than the single digits. Again, people will tell you not to do that, but you know, for us, we just wanted to prevent frostbite really, and we obviously had a heater for the birds as well. So we did okay, but we had some light netting over the top that came down in a storm, and literally in the 2 days it took for me to put back up. You know, a small hawk came down in December and took 2 birds. Just in literally 5 minutes. Caught all on our video camera, which wasn't a great thing for my daughter to see, but very traumatic. Surprisingly so, actually, because although they're not pets as such, you do get attached, and more than anything, you feel that you've really let them down. Fast forward to January and we changed the netting. So I went on, I think is it the Predator P website, I can't even say that, and got this what's called hawk netting. It's much wider. It's I guess 4-5 inch squares. Not really designed to keep the hawks from physically coming through, but I think it was developed in fisheries up in Maine, and the idea was that it reflects the hawk sees it, and you know, it's a deterrent, and that worked for quite a while. So we had that completely covering the enclosure. I put up a fake owl, although I'm not sure how successful the fake owl was. You know, the twirly, you know, reflective things. We really went to town, and that worked for quite a long time until we got some snow. And I suspect, although I don't know, I mean, I would say that it's a pretty good product. But with it being white against the white, either that or just the fact that you know, predators get more and more hungry. I was coming out the front in winter, that is. I was coming out the front one day and I was putting some path clear down, you know, just to clear the ice off the path. And I just looked across and thought, where are the chickens? And as I walked across, I saw up in like that tree up there a really huge hawk. I mean, without any exaggeration, I'd say, you know, taller than 30 inches, maybe even 34, 36 inches, huge. And a pair of them, you know, obviously on the way back up to Canada or something. One in the tree, the male, and the female sitting over on the other side. My heart sank. I went in and another one of the Buff Orpingtons had gone. So that was 3 chickens gone out of the original 6. you know, so I cleared things up, and really that was it. Vowed to do things properly, and by properly I mean, you know, a full enclosure. So started planning, and this video is really to show you what the setup is, and share some of the experiences. Don't know whether anybody's going to watch it. You know, there's a lot of chicken keepers out there and good websites and blogs and stuff, but I thought I'd give it a go and you know, show you some of the features, what works and what doesn't. So here's the setup. You can see it's a little bit more, well, I guess you've got nothing to compare it against, but it's a little bit more professional than it used to be. It's a combi coop. I'll show you the features of that, and then we've built an extended run on the back. You can ignore the kids' tree house at the back. We've got about an acre here. Behind me is about a quarter acre of cleared for the house and garden, and then, you know, we head off into a wood that goes around the back. So, you know, we need to prepare ourselves for the potential of predators and the like. So this is a combi coop. It was a 6 by 10 foot combi coop from Lancaster Chicken Coops down in Pennsylvania. I can highly recommend them. They were a great bunch of people. You know, the orders went through smoothly, everything was on time, built specially for us, and we had it extended. So this is a 6 foot by 14 foot coop overall combi coop. So I think the coop's actually built by Star Ridge Structures, but the website's Lancaster Chicken Coop. This was, we didn't get I think it came in pine and cedar. We got the mid one, which is the composite. We also got the metal roof. We thought that would be good for the winter, insulated, and got some additional features on here as well. So we got the clear out underneath, so you can clear out underneath the coop, and we upgraded it so everything is this vinyl coated. I think this is 1/2 inch welded wire, which is, I think, good enough. I mean, some people will say 1/4 inch, but I mean, this is incredibly heavy duty overall, and I think is pretty good from a predator perspective. So this is a composite anti-rot material. It's really well constructed, and as you can see, there's a good sort of enclosed space, which I think works really well, because firstly it's going to be great for the winter, and secondly it keeps the earth really dry underneath the coop, which means I do occasionally excuse me, I do kind of rake out the poop and put a little fresh kind of topsoil in there. But what it means is the girls always have somewhere to dust bathe. I put some of that, I can't say this, but you know what I mean. Is it diatomaceous earth or whatever else? Everybody's going to laugh when they watch this video, but you know the stuff that keeps the mites off. I kind of put that underneath underneath as well, and the girls absolutely love having a dust bath right underneath here, as you can see. So that's kind of their dust bath area. Got a nice heavy duty door on the back with lock. So there's some really good anti-predator features on here. There's a proper lock on there. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nest boxes. Great windows that have all got the 1/2 inch welded wire in there as well. And then inside that we've got the fly netting, if you like, keep the mosquitoes out, because, you know, it's not just humans that have problems with mosquitoes, but also chickens as well. And while the welded wire keeps the predators out, this insect netting here is gonna, or fly screen rather, is gonna keep the bugs out, and also the flies. You know, you can get some pretty nasty infections from flies, particularly around the vent area on the chickens if there's some poop there. So it's a good idea to try and keep those out of the coop. It is powered, so we've got a light in here. Now that could be on a controller for those people who want to keep egg production up during the winter. For us, we don't bother with that. We give the girls a rest. But you know, we've got full power, we've got electrics there, and we've put a few toys in. Excuse my wiring, I know it's not great, but you can see what we have here is we have a coop tender, predator proof automatic coop door. I'll show you that from the outside. We've had a couple over the years. Last year we had a chicken guard on the small coop, which was pretty good, but that's a metal sort of sheet that drops down. We didn't have any issues with it, but I suppose a really determined raccoon or something could get their hands underneath, or the fingers, if you like, whatever raccoons have, and lift it up. I think they'd be hard pushed to do that, but this really is predator proof because it's basically on a screw. So when it's down, it's down. There's literally no way of lifting it. Now we've actually powered it, but this coop is Does have a battery backup and also a solar, so that thing there is the solar power. I've just charged the battery up, but this time of year it will run off solar, and there's actually a solar panel on the roof that we had as an extra, as you can see. So that's the solar panel, so it will run totally by itself. I've also got a Wi-Fi controller which is wired in. That's an extra from Coop tender. It was only about $122 to add on, but that means I can operate the door with Wi-Fi. It shows me when it opens and shuts, and if I want to make any changes to the program or whatever, I can do that remotely anywhere in the world through any device, just through a web browser. There's a few Internet of Things in there. That's just a Wi-Fi plug, so that's connected to a panel heater, it's connected to a roost heater, and it's connected to a water heater. So again, people are going to say you don't need all that stuff, and that's fine, you do what you want, but these are actually heated roosts, so you can see where the wire goes in, and it's just a tray seat, just keeps their feet warm in the winter. I'm only going to use that when we sort of drop down to single digits, or certainly less than 15, something like that. I do have these little temperature sensors all around the place. I have these in the coop, I also have them in the house and in the garden, so it just tells me what the temperature and the humidity is like in the coop. Humidity is obviously pretty important for chickens, particularly in the winter. If the humidity is too high and there isn't enough ventilation and it's cold, that's when frostbite can be a problem. So that tracks, I can see what the temperature and humidity is at any time through the year. What else? I do have some cameras in here. I can recommend these actually. These Zomodo cameras. They're really cheap and they run through an app. You can have a cloud service. I've got those dotted around, although I'm actually taking those out of the coop because I've actually got a more wide angle nest one here, and that's just because I've got. You'll say that's overkill for a chicken coop, but I actually have got a bunch of nest stuff in the house, so it's pretty handy just to have that on. So the coop is on the nest cam, pardon the pun. These two Zomodo cams are going outside because the rest of the run has just got a couple of dead spots that I want to just check in on, because honestly in the lunch break or whatever at work or when I'm traveling, it's quite nice to just see what your chickens are up to. There you go. I know people will laugh at me for that, but I don't care. Insulated metal roof, lots of space under here, so in the winter they're going to spend a little bit more time in here. This is one of those little cozy panel heater things. Again, what I've found is with enough birds and a properly sized coop, you can keep the ambient temperature in the coop a good 15 degrees above outside. So if it's 30 degrees outside, then you can keep 50, you can be like 45 in the coop, but what that will do is put another 10 degrees on, so if it's like 0 outside, you can keep it sort of around the freezing mark in the coop, which is pretty good. 0 Fahrenheit obviously for anyone watching outside of probably the US. Lots of ventilation both here and at the top here, high level, which is pretty good, and then there's a second ventilation opening there that you can operate from the back, which I'll show you, and I'll show you how the poop trays work as well. It's all pretty useful. So these are some fabulous features of this coop that I can really recommend, if you're looking to buy a coop. Firstly, what we've got at the top here is the ventilation hatch that you saw, so that's level with the roost. So in the summer you've got air moving all the way through, so that's pretty helpful for the chickens on those hot summer nights as they try and regulate their temperature. I think the most useful, the most impressive feature is the poop clean out tray, which has got that lock on it. This whole thing was supplied with carabiners as well, which is pretty helpful. They say if a 5-year-old kid can figure out how this opens, and so can a raccoon. So everything has these little carabiners on, so if you don't have those, I would recommend those. Better safe than sorry. And then this whole thing is just genius, really. These are the poop clear out trays. They were an extra, but 60 to 70% of chicken poop comes out at night when they're roosting, so I just put a few shavings in there, and it just means that the coop stays really clean, and you can basically clean it from the outside. I mean, some people might be cleaning out shavings and poop almost on a daily basis within the coop, but honestly the coop just stays so clean, and virtually all of the poop is in those trays. so you can just empty it out without even going in the coop if you want to, and that's going to be an absolute bonus in the winter. Down here, this is a clean out that is level with the floor, so if you can lift that up, Rebecca. So I also got with this coop an epoxy floor, which you can see, so it's really cleanable, and I actually use one of those large snow clearance things that you use for your car, you know, with the big blade on that doesn't scratch, and you can just put it in there, it fits perfectly, and literally just pull it straight out and clean it out in one go. And those nest boxes, that whole structure, just, you know, it's just a bar and then the divider, so the whole thing lifts out. It's super easy to clean. You can basically get all of the shavings out of this thing in about 3 minutes flat. You know, you can do some natural you know, cleaning or whatever you want to do with the, I don't use bleach, so you can, so everything, all the service for this coop is on this side of the coop, which is fantastic. While we're on the subject, by the way, I mentioned before the initial coop, this was the original coop, this little thing. So we've been using this for chicks, because I said earlier in the intro we were down to 3 birds. We got another 8 chicks that we've been raising through the spring. Today was the first day that we have actually mixed them. I'll talk about how we integrated them in a moment, so we're still sort of integrating them, I suppose. There's nothing wrong with this coop, it's fine, but literally we had the, you know, 4 by, I guess, 4 coop, and then we just had a little run, that's only half of it, and a little extension run, and that was within the surround. But, you know, as we wanted to expand the flock, it's, you know, it's basic, it's fine, but it's, once you've got a coop like that, you realise just what those features actually mean. There was 3 nest boxes in that, so, but we're going to leave it, because as you can see, it's sort of connected to the back of an extended run, which I'll show you in a minute, and it enables us to put chicks in the brooder as we add chicks to the flock. We can then raise them in here. We can divide up the main outdoor run so that the birds can see one another and it's at right angles, and then, like today, when we're ready to introduce the birds, we can literally lift it up, and I've done that today, and then just keep an eye on them and make sure they don't peck each other to death. So here we are in the outside of the coop, or rather the combi section. You can see it's really nicely constructed. The door's actually shut right now because I've got this set on a dawn to dusk, so the light sensor says that it was night time. The reason for that is I had this outer door shut. The only reason I'm doing that is my Buff Orpington is broody right now, so it stops her going back into the coop to sit on an empty nest all day. So it's a nice feature, but it means that the door's shut right now. It's on a delay, so actually while I'm doing this it's going to open, because as you can see, she probably wants to go lay an egg, which is why she's trying to get in. I've got power coming out to the outside, so this water here is actually sitting on a water heater, not on today obviously because I'm filming this on a nice warm June day, but I can remotely or thermostatically control that on the Wi-Fi. So that plug I showed you before, I can set that up to just come on when it's 32 to ensure the water doesn't freeze. But this is a nice area. It's, as I said, it keeps really dry, so the birds can dust bathe in here. I do try and clear it out from time to time, and it also means in the winter, you know, we can keep the snow out and they've got somewhere to walk around. I may, as I did with the little coop last season, I sort of cut out little perspex things, and just to keep the wind out, either a half or full, I'll probably put perspex windows in this, which sounds a little bit overboard, but when it's blowing and it's a nor'easter, it'll just keep the snow out. So this is the chicken guard. It's probably going to open as I'm talking. Sorry, coop tender, chicken guard was the other one. It's much higher quality really than what I had before. It came with the coop. As you can see, that thing says freeze protect enabled, so you can actually set it up so if it's you know, below a certain temperature, it'll actually stay shut and keep the birds inside. Now I probably won't bother with that, but some people do. This kind of menu is a little bit fiddly to program it. It's fairly straightforward, but it's not the best. But you can actually program it through that app on the Wi-Fi, so you can set it up, you know, sitting having a cup of coffee or a cup of tea when you're inside, to be honest. So that's pretty good. Now, dotted all around the exterior and both at the entry, the nest box, and round the outside, I've got several of these night guards. Highly recommended. They're kind of bulletproof. They work well. They charge all day, and then at night we've got all these flashing little red lights on the perimeter around the coop and around the run. The logic or the theory being that if these are at the eye level of a predator, they see them and they stay away because they think it's, I guess the retina reflecting from another animal or something like that. I don't know, but they seem to work. I mean, we haven't had any evidence, knocking on wood, of any issues at all with digging predators. So I don't want to jinx it, but they seem to be okay. So we've got those dotted all around, and then we've got various cameras. So we've got, this is the Zomodo here, we've got another one out in the run here. These are all on Wi-Fi, so it just means I can keep an eye on what the chicks are doing. And then, we've built this run, so let's talk about predator proofing for a moment. This is the 1/2-inch welded wire I talked about. So, that whole combi coop can be closed. That's obviously what came with the coop. Everything on this coop is lockable, because in theory, an animal could potentially open that, but even that opens up, not down, so something can't push it down with its own weight and open it. It's really well thought through, and some pretty heavy duty hardware. So if you see on the nest box, these things you actually have to lift and open. So lift and open. They're actually pretty stiff to open, and really well thought through. So everything has got hooks on it, so you can open things up. You can collect your eggs without going in the coop, but really nicely protected with these. And then the actual run itself. Saying hello to one of my little Rhode Island Reds. She's only about, how old are they, Becca? She's about 14 weeks, something like that. Yeah. So I've constructed this thing. It's all out of rock-proof timber, for want of a better description, pressure-treated timber. I mean, I'm no carpenter, but I've done this extended run, and I've basically covered it with welded wire. So on the top I've done 1 inch, because really this is all about predators from above, so I think that's fine. And then on the sides I've done 1/2 inch by 1 inch, which again I think is pretty good. Some people will say 1/4 inch welded wire, but I wanted this stuff to sort of disappear against the background and do the black. So it's obviously pretty expensive to buy bunches of rolls of this stuff, but that's why we did it. So we've got this nice extended run now, and these girls, there's an Australorp, there's a noisy Rhode Island Red, we've got a speckled Sussex there, we've got a white rock, we've got a white Brahma, we've got a buff Brahma, and these are the old girls who've lived through a lot, bless them, the original 3 of the original 6 Wyandottes, and we've got a buff, and that's my little chicken jail, because I've got a broody Buff Orpington right now. So if she decides she's going to sit on the nest all day, I put her in the little chicken jail just to stop her doing that, because she's pretty much wasting her time, and I want to break that broodiness. So she's more than happy in there. Well, maybe not happy, but she's safe enough in there. That was the original run, actually. I'm just going to leave it in. So this is Coop Corner. We've got some nice shade from this maple here. I've been building these veg boxes and planting roses and stuff just to keep it all sweet smelling. Frankly, these are for us, but we're a bit late planting this year, but these are our veggies. And then, as you can see, we've got the run coming off the coop, so they've got plenty of space to run around. I know people free range, but for us it's just heartbreaking to lose them. And if they're free ranging, that's great, but you're going to lose some from time to time. You've got to be prepared to do that. So I'm sure there's some people out there that will say, oh yes, but they don't have enough space. Well, they do. I mean, they've got, I guess, 300 plus square feet there to run around, and then we've surrounded it by pea gravel. So I'll edit in some pictures, but clearly we haven't just dropped this to the ground. You can buy that coop with welded wire underneath, but I want those birds to be able to scratch. I want them to be able to bathe, and I don't really want them to damage themselves on the wire underneath. So I deliberately chose to not do that. And what we've got, and again you'll see it when you edit the photographs in, all the way through here I've going down about 1 foot and then about 3 feet out, and I've got welded wire that runs all the way around, and it's basically tacked to to the base of the run. You can see how it's tacked in here. So if I dug that out, this is just weed, stop the weeds coming through, but this welded wire, obviously not the vinyl coated, so it's a bit cheap, but 1/4 inch welded wire is running out 3 feet, down a foot and out another 2 feet, all the way under. So if somebody wants to start digging there, then they're going to be pretty hungry, but I think they'll be lucky to get in. Again, hopefully that won't happen. So I think they're pretty well protected, night guards all the way around. So there you go, that's my coop. Hope that helps. You could probably do another video on integrating chickens, but the nice setup at the end there was basically we were able to keep the birds at the back of the coop, so they could see each other for, you know, pretty much 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that. We've literally just mixed them today. So they're the 3 old birds, they're all the new birds, and although they haven't fully integrated, they seem to be keeping themselves to themselves pretty much. And we've separate, you know, feed and water over there for those guys, and we've got feed and a couple of waters over here for the old birds. So although they can both eat and drink wherever they want, we won't have this bruiser right here, who's definitely the top of the pecking order. We won't have her guarding the food and stopping everybody else eating. So there you go. I hope that's helpful. And so there you go. You can probably tell I'm no YouTube expert or blogging expert, and I'm also relatively new to chickens. We're only a year into it, but we've learned a lot in the first year. We're really happy with the coop and with the run that we've just completed, and as you can see behind me, Rebecca, my 14-year-old, is really happy to help out with the chickens too, and we're busily integrating the new flock and building it back up, and hopefully all that effort is worth it, because we don't want to lose any more chickens. It's pretty heartbreaking. So if you think you need to put a bit more work into predator proofing, I can definitely recommend it. All right, have fun with it and good luck.